I'm all about the technical difficulties today. Well, welcome back from spring break. You guys may have been like, oh, is that why we missed last week? Yes, those of us who have teenagers in school, it was spring break, and it was really great. And because spring break is so random from wherever you are, we have the gift of having Tim Hoffman with us tonight, who's here from spring break in Colorado. They must do like a really late spring break. We're in, one of the more important moments of the seasons of the church. We're entering into Holy Week next week. So we're coming in on Palm Sunday this Sunday, and this is when we celebrate the triumphal entry, and we wave the palm branches, and so we'll do that. Sandra Green has bought for us extra palm branches or leaves this year, because we want the adults to be involved as well. So you guys all have a chance to come up and grab some palms and wave them as well. But a few of you have noticed I actually just changed out the cross today, because what we're noting in the triumphal entry is Christ's kingship. Now, what he's going to force us to recognize is it's a different kingship than what we expect or long for sometimes. But because of that, we put on the gold cross, and we celebrate him as king. And so we'll have a big procession and everything this week. But that's why you see a different cross here, and that's why it'll be so celebratory on Sunday as we celebrate Palm Sunday. But we're going back into the Old Testament. We're in 2 Samuel chapter 20, and we're going to pick up in verse 1. And we're going to try to make it through the whole chapter today, okay? So let's pray. Lord, we are here to hear your word. And so, would everything that has happened this day, before we walked into this place, can sometimes be distracting. And we don't want to run away from anything, but we also want to be very attentive and present here. So, would you quiet the voices, the noise? Help us to hear your word and to receive that word from you. So we give you this time in your holy name. Amen. That prayer was just as much for me as it was for you. We're in 2 Samuel 20, and we're going to pick up in verse 1, but let me just give you a quick overview to remind you after missing a week where we are. Absalom has died. This is David's son who incited rebellion. He won the hearts of Israel and, in essence, took over the kingdom. He wants to do away with David, and so he pursues David to the east of the Jordan River. And David uses his own plot, his own moles, spies, double agents within Absalom's own council. And they conspire together to bring Absalom together into the forest where they have the advantage and they win the battle. Absalom dies. And now it's time for David to move back and reclaim the throne. If you remember, David was still called the king. But he was not in the palace, he was not in the place of power, and he clearly didn't have the hearts of the people. So he begins to move back, but as we noted, it's a very pomp and circumstance kind of thing. This isn't just him walking in the middle of the night and all of a sudden everyone wakes up and David's back. This is very purposeful. The intention is that he's being invited back in. He's not taking it by force. And so after some finagling, of course, the people come together in some level of unity. The people in the north, Israel, which are the 10 tribes, and the people in the south called Judah, which are the 2 tribes, Benjamin and Judah. They all welcome him back, and they walk with him across the Jordan River. And if you remember, there are some who come with him back over the Jordan as those who want to be supportive. It's not just Benjamin, but I believe it's also the Gibeonites, if I can find it. Oh, it's the Gileadites. But everyone is saying, welcome back, David. We're glad you're here. But then what we find out is that there still is a little bit of division between the north and the south. And there clearly are cracks in the unity of David's kingdom. So, after some arguing, the men of Israel and the men of Judah are trying to decide who gets to sort of have claim over David. And the men of Judah end up winning that argument. They say, he's from our tribe, he's ours, we own him, you know. And they help him back into his palace there in Jerusalem. And now we pick up in chapter 20, verse 1. Now a troublemaker named Sheba, son of Bichri, a Benjamite, happened to be there. So they're in Jerusalem. We have no share in, they're still just crossed the Jordan. Let me just give you a location. They're still coming across the Jordan. He sounded the trumpet and shouted, we have no share in David, no part in Jesse's son. Every man to his tent, Israel. So all the men of Israel deserted David to follow Sheba, son of Bichri, but the men of Judah stayed by their king all the way from the Jordan to Jerusalem. Let's just pause there and do some observing and locate ourselves. What are you seeing? What are you noticing? Pam. Oh, okay, your Bible says a scoundrel. Mine says a troublemaker. Scoundrel has a little bit more mystique around it, doesn't it? Yeah. David?
He's identified as a Benjamite.
Okay.
Saul's tribe.
Thank you. He's identified as a Benjamite, which is the tribe of Saul. Do you guys remember who Saul is? Previous king who really ended up not liking David at all. Okay. Thank you for that great observation. What else do you guys notice? Nellie? There's division there between the people of Israel and the people of Judah. And remember, when we say that, Israel, when we hear that, we think of the whole thing. And in a lot of ways, that is a name that's used for the whole thing. When we hear Judah, we think just one tribe. And in a lot of ways, that is just one tribe. But there really is a division geographically of those who are in the north, which is 10 tribes. We call them Israel. And those in the south, we call Judah. And it's a large tribe of Judah and then the small tribe of Benjamin. Okay, so there is this division. What else? Okay.
Benjamin, this tribe is a part of Judah.
Correct.
But he's
In league with the people of Israel. Okay.
The troublemaker is saying we don't have a part in David, but then it says the men of Judah stay by their king.
Correct.
But I'm confused.
Okay, that's great. Well, that's not great, but that's helpful for our conversation. Okay, so Deanne's confused. We're going to put a big question mark. Okay, what is actually happening here? That's the big question. What actually is happening here? Okay, what else do we notice? Were you going to say something, Andrea? Same thing. Yeah, the men of Judah actually stayed with, did you see that? Their king. Okay. Don't miss the big observations. This man gets up and says, we have no share in David, no part in Jesse's son, every man to his tent, Israel. That's a big thing. Okay. Lauren?
With what he's saying there, we have no portion of David. It's poetry. We think that he may have sang this.
Oh, that's a good question. That's very, I have no idea. Lauren's asking, you can see that this has some sort of poetic nature to it simply because of the way it's indented in the Bible. And the question is, would he have sung this? And, realistically, I have no idea. I have not pictured it that way. I just have a picture. This is a very common saying. And we'll get into that here in just a moment. But I have it more in the sense of like this is something he's crying out very formally to make a statement. Yeah. Yes, Lynn.
Okay, compared to Israel and Judah, how many people are we talking?
Ooh, I cannot give you that number. Lynn's asking kind of how many people are we talking between Israel and Judah?
How many stayed in your tents?
Oh, okay. We're trying to get a picture of what's really happening here as far as number of people. Great question that I actually brought my commentary to specifically answer that question. So we'll get into that in just a second. Yeah. Yeah, Sandra? Nor do we have an inheritance in the son of Jesse. Okay, a little bit of semantics, but it does have a different twinge to it, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, Tiffany? That's exactly right. So these are also these would have been the Absalom followers. Okay. All right, so let's just dig in a little bit here. Some really good questions. What we're really wondering, who actually is involved here? Because we're hearing these broad names that represent a ton of people. So the commentary was helpful for me in drawing this picture out. Okay, so let me just try to give the idea of it, and then I have a couple things I want to dip into in the commentary. When they're saying all of the people, we have to take off our 21st century Western lenses here. Because when we hear that, what we hear is all. So if I'd said like all of the church, our church gathered, we'd be like, really? Where did they fit? You know? And like, well, we called a meeting and people came, and that was all the church. You know, that we consider that all the church. And it could have been half of the people. You have a similar kind of thing happening here. It's really the military people who are there to meet him at the Jordan. And even among them, many of them have already left. Do you remember when the battle was over, they scattered to their own homes because they wanted to avoid being slaughtered? Many of them have already left, and not all of them came back. You're primarily talking about the leaders of Israel and the leaders of Judah. So there's a lot of politicking going on. Now, we also can have the perspective contextually that this is sort of a loose collection of people and it's not very organized. But I think it would be a little bit more like seeing a conference that you would go to. Everybody's there and they're sort of on their own timetable in some ways, but you're all, the central piece is the conference, and you're all dipping in and out of that, and you're utilizing your time around the edges of the conference to talk and to connect and network and all that stuff, right? You've been to these places? Similar thing happening here. They're there for this big event, but there's a lot of politicking happening on the sides. And one of those politicking pieces we just read at the end of chapter 19. Who gets to be the one that says, we're leading David back into his throne? And Israel's like, well, there's 10 of us, and he's represented us before. We have the biggest claim. And Judah says, no. He's from us. And they win the day. Okay? So, division. Now, this man Sheba gets up. And we already know he's a troublemaker because the author has made that very clear. And he's saying, fine. We're just going to throw a wrench in this whole thing. I'm going to lead. And so he blows the horn, gets everybody's attention, and he says this line that is very clearly something that is a normal thing that is said when you're basically inciting rebellion. We have no share in David, no part in Jesse's son. Counter to what was just said at the end of 19. Every man to his tent, Israel. And everybody goes, okay, fine, we gotta go and do this thing, you know. When it says every man in Israel, that doesn't mean every man went. In fact, what we're going to watch as this plays out, just a spoiler alert, Sheba is going to die. It's going to happen today, okay, as we read. he has nobody with him. So very few people really backed him. It's just the author saying this was something that was incited, and it was the people of Israel who were a little bit more amenable to it. Judah has already stated their claim in David, and they're not going to go through this whole thing again, so they decide they're going to stay next to him. And they stay with him all the way to Jerusalem. David doesn't say like he did with Absalom, I better get out of here because I'm going to be taken over. That shows me that he's not concerned in the same way as he was with Absalom. The commentary says it really well this way. With Absalom, David personally was in jeopardy. With Sheba, the kingdom of Israel is in jeopardy, not David himself. What we're watching is the cracks are being exposed in the unity of the kingdom of David. Okay? And so, a little bit of an answer to your question, Lynn, but sort of not an answer, and that is, we have no idea how many people were involved in this, but it was a much smaller number than it sounds in the initial reading. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It would seem to be.
That's right. Yeah. Nellie? Say that last part again. Yeah, well, again, even numerically, you're basing that statement of there's more people of Judah than there are of Israel off of the idea that half of Israel's there and all of Judah's there. It's not really an issue of the certain number of people. It's an issue of what those people represent. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, let's get to the question, isn't Benjamin a part of Judah? Yes. But Benjamin is still sore about the death of Saul. They lost their representative. They lost the king that represented them. And so the leaders, at least, of Benjamin, that doesn't mean everybody who lived in Benjamin or was from that tribe felt this way, but their leaders who represent them, Sheba in particular, he's saying, yeah, we're gonna move on. Let everybody look to me. Okay, so you feel what's happening here. It says it's another rebellion, another division, but what we can see is David is not concerned in the same way for himself personally. And let me just dig in. I'm going to keep us moving because I want us to see what happens next. When David returned to his palace in Jerusalem, he took the 10 concubines he had left to take care of the palace and put them in a house under guard. He provided for them, but had no sexual relations with them. They were kept in confinement till the day of their death, living as widows. I'm going to move us beyond this, not because I'm afraid to talk about sex, but we just need to keep moving through. But let me just say to you, remember, these are the concubines that he left to care for the palace. And you remember Absalom, his son, took them and had sex with them on a tent on the roof so that everybody could see. He was soiling his father's house. So David says, okay, I'm going to honor them, and I'm going to protect them, and I'm going to care for them, but I will no longer see them as my partners, if you will. Then the king said to Amasa, summon the men of Judah to come to me within 3 days, and be here yourself. But when Amasa went to summon Judah, he took longer than the time the king had set for him. David said to Abishai, now Sheba, son of Bichri, will do for us more harm than Absalom did. Take your master's men and pursue him, or he will find fortified cities and escape from us. So Joab's men and the Kerethites and the Pelethites and all the mighty warriors went out under the command of Abishai. They marched out from Jerusalem to pursue Sheba, son of Bichri. While they were at the great rock in Gibeon, well, let's stop there for a second and just make sure we're understanding where we are. What do you notice? We're going to move kind of quickly through this, but what are some things you're noticing here in that section we just read? after the concubines? Keith?
Well, he recognized there's a threat.
Okay.
He wants to end that threat as quick as he can.
Yes. He recognizes there's a threat. And how does he recognize that there's a threat? What are we seeing there? Amasa is supposed to come back in 3 days, and he hasn't come back in the time set. And so he makes this statement there in verse 6. Now Sheba, son of Bichri, will do for us more harm than Absalom did. Okay. I have a question. How does Amasa not showing up, how does that have anything to do with Sheba and him causing more problems? I have an answer too, but I think that's my observatory question. Why are these things connected? Is he wondering if Amasa is helping Sheba? That's my question, and we'll get into that in a second. Okay, what else do you guys notice? Anything else? Let's just remind ourselves of who Amasa is. He was the leader of Absalom's army. But in a desire to bring unity to the nation of Israel and to win the hearts back of the people of Israel, meaning the north, he put Amasa as his leader of the army, his general. And it worked. Because everybody then said, okay, fine, we're going to come into unity with you. So Amasa, who was the enemy, is now the one who's supposed to be leading him. How much trust do you think David has for Amasa? Not very much. Okay, Nancy, what were you going to say? He's also the nephew of King David in this kind of weird roundabout way. Yeah, the question is, would that have influenced him making Amasa the general? And my opinion is no. I mean, perhaps it could have a little bit, but there is a lot of nepotism kind of involved anyway. There's multiple people who are family of multiple people. To me, this was more of a political decision to get Israel under his care. Now, I don't think is he kin to Joab? Abishai and Joab are brothers. Yeah, but not Amasa. Yeah. But you're the one with the list of names. So you tell me. Oh, you forgot to bring it. Okay. Here's what we need to see in this section, though, is he's sending, Amasa clearly is not with him. He's sending Amasa off to do this very first thing, and that is to take care of Sheba. We need to get this taken care of. Bring him back, bring the people of Israel back, let's get this taken care of. And come back in 3 days, which would have been, I'm guessing, based in the context of the passage, a very normal amount of time, and he doesn't show up. But then David makes this statement. This stuff with Sheba is going to do more harm than Absalom did. And this is where the commentary is helpful. David's not personally at risk here, but the larger kingdom of Israel is. What is at risk is entering back into a type of tribal warfare and tribalism that preceded Saul, that was sort of the time of the judges when everybody does whatever they want, and the judge steps up to save Israel when it's needed, and then it goes back into this kind of tribalism. If you want a helpful, he dipped into it very little, I think, in his first talk, John Harmon. You can go to our YouTube page and you can watch his first session on the Bible and space and time. He talked a little bit about the tribalism that preceded Saul. I think that what's more at risk with Sheba is moving back out of a monarchy into tribalism, and therefore a big division and the breaking down of the entire thing. So David is interested in getting this taken care of quickly. So Joab and Abishai get sent out to go take care of business. And that's where we enter in here. While they were at the great rock in Gibeon, I wish when you say that, everyone knows what the great rock in Gibeon is. And I wish I knew what that looked like. I'm sure you could Google it or something. Okay. Amasa came to meet them. Joab was wearing his military tunic, and strapped over it at his waist was a belt with a dagger in its sheath. As he stepped forward, it dropped out of its sheath. Joab said to Amasa, "How are you, my brother?" Then Joab took Amasa by the beard with his right hand to kiss him. Amasa was not on his guard against the dagger in Joab's hand, and Joab plunged it into his belly. Do you need to do a warning? This is... Okay. What follows could be disturbing. Plunged it into his belly, and his intestines spilled out on the ground. Without being stabbed again, Amasa died. Then Joab and his brother Abishai pursued Sheba, son of Bichri. Let's just talk about that for a moment. If you had not read this before, I think this would have been like a little unexpected. There's no warning sign that this is happening. There's been no order given, go kill Amasa. It feels very Godfatherish, doesn't it? I'm thinking of the scene where Michael Corleone steps in. He says, he's got a broken jaw, and he says, "I can take care of this." And they plant the gun behind the toilet, and he's there in the Italian restaurant. Shoot, drop the gun, and walk out. That was that whole thing. And you're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this just happened." That's what this feels like to me. It's planned, it's plotted, and it's taking care of business. It's business, it's not personal. The graphic nature of the text shows clearly that this was done with skill. It was done with force, and almost an idea that this was supposed to happen, I think. And Amasa is left now. Well, we're going to read that here in a second. But there's also it's almost like feeding him to the dogs. There's a disrespect intended with this. His intestines are out. Deanne?
I've got a little side note here.
Go for it.
Because his right hand, which is the weapon hand, caught him off guard.
That's right.
And it was like a peaceful thing.
Yeah. Could you guys hear that? He uses his right hand. Did you hear it? It took his beard to kiss him. I think, was that normal? I'm going to start doing that with Seth. Say, "Good to see you, brother." Right hand for the beard, which would normally be the weapon hand if you're a righty. And so that would catch him off guard, which it says he was caught off guard. And then the left hand is used. You've got to have skill to do that too. John? So the question is, how did it, in my perspective is just like the old Western movies. I keep bringing up, okay, but the Western movie where the guy just goes, and the gun's right there, it's like it's in the sleeve. You cheated in poker, like that. Or it seems to me like he planned it in such a way that as he stepped, it triggered something so that the dagger fell and he was able to just grab it. This seems like high skill. High skill. The picture I have in my head, which is not scholarly, is him having planned this whole thing where he probably has like a little a knot tied or like a bow tied, where as he's walking up, he just pulls it out, grabs the thing, and just does the whole deal right there. But that, again, that's skill. Maybe he had two. There's no use digging too deep into this. The point is, Amasa is dead, and that's the most important piece here. Now, the question is Joab, is he upset because he was taken out of the position of being general? You know, is that part of it? Maybe. Or is this a way that the author is trying to say, David's really behind it, he's the godfather here, but he has a lot of layers deep so that he's not the one who's held guilty of it? I kind of think it's the latter. I think that this was a hit that was ordered, and it was, Amasa, I'm going to use you to get all of the unity back with the people of Israel, and somebody over here is going to kill him, and now he's no longer a problem. And I do think that him not showing up in 3 days means that he probably was in league with Sheba.
Where is Sheba?
Sheba's running. So, let's enter back in here because we've got 15 minutes. One of Joab's men stood beside Amasa and said, "Whoever favors Joab and whoever is for David, let him follow Joab." Let me just put some context to that. This is Joab's man, probably from Judah, stands beside Amasa, and he looks out over all the people who are there, mostly people from Israel. Whoever favors Joab, whoever is for David, let him follow Joab. Come with us. Now read this. Amasa lay wallowing in his blood in the middle of the road, and the man saw that all the troops came to halt there. When he realized that everyone who came up to Amasa stopped, he dragged him from the road into a field and threw a garment over him. After Amasa had been removed from the road, everyone went on with Joab to pursue Sheba, son of Bichri. Okay, I'm stepping out of our normal practice here. I'm just running today because we have 7 weeks left, y'all. Okay, I looked at that today. We've got to get through 2 Samuel. Okay. What's happening is that they really have killed him and they have left him for the birds. There's no honor for this in this for Amasa. He may have been laying there for a bit. Yeah, we got the ER nurse back there going, I've seen this kind of stuff. This is not good. Now, the question is, why did the men stop? Are they stopping because they want to honor him? Are they stopping because they know the law of Moses and they don't want to come across a dead person and therefore be unclean? Are they stopping because they're grossed out and they're afraid? Maybe it's a combo of all of that.
Is he dead yet?
Oh, he's dead. He's wallowing. Maybe he's still writhing. You picture that however you want to picture that. Yeah. The point is he's going to be dead. It's over. So, dishonor still. Drag him out. Put a piece of clothing over him so no one sees him. And now frees everybody else up to follow Joab. So, let's just picture this. Joab leading the army at this point. He has now gained a bunch of troops with him, and they're in hot pursuit of Sheba. They're ready to take him out. And they're moving quickly to find him. Correct. Yeah, they actually, it says they moved him off the road, and then they put the cloak over him. And a lot of that is, it's like, don't look over there. Just keep coming. It allows them now to move beyond, whether it's their desire to follow the law or just their own distraction or even fear of it. It allows them to focus on what's in front of them, and that's Joab. So let's keep going. Sheba passed through all the tribes of Israel, so hear that, to Abel Beth Maacah, and through the entire region of the Bichrites. That's his own place. Who gathered together and followed him. Okay, so let's just take stock of who's following Sheba. Some of Israel, but all of Bichri, or at least the people of Bichri who can fight, his own people. All the troops with Joab came and besieged Sheba and Abel Beth Maacah. They built a siege ramp up to the city, and it stood against the outer fortifications. While they were battering the wall to bring it down, a wise woman called from the city, "Listen, listen, tell Joab to come here so I can speak to him." He went toward her and she asked, "Are you Joab?" Let me just pause there for a second. Okay, so this is not Sheba's city. When it says that he was going throughout all of Israel, what that means is he's looking for a haven. And why does he go to other places? Because these places have said, "We don't want you here." This happened with David, do you remember? David's scurrying through the desert to escape Saul, and he lands in this place, and they're like, "What have you brought upon us by coming here?" All of these other places will not give him a haven, except for this one town called Abel Beth Maacah. Now the question for the reader would be, are they in league with him? Are they just staying there? What's the relationship that's going on here? We're going to find that out here in just a second. But they start to build a siege ramp. A siege ramp, it means we're going to get over the wall, or at least we're going to get up to the wall. And as they're there, they're just beating on the wall to make this thing fall apart. And this woman comes over the wall, just like on Monty Python and the Holy Grail, with the Frenchmen. That's exactly what it's like. Listen, listen, she's yelling down, and she says, "Send Joab here." This tells me she knows all of the players. She knows Joab. She knows who he is, what he does. Come here. And what she says to him is this: "Are you Joab?" "I am," he answered. She said, "Listen to what your servant has to say." "I'm listening," he said. She continued, "Long ago they used to say, 'Get your answer at Abel,'" meaning their town, "and that settled it. We are the peaceful and faithful in Israel. You are trying to destroy a city that is a mother in Israel. Why do you want to swallow up the Lord's inheritance?" She's making a case for her own town. We've always been a peaceful, we're faithful people. We've never caused trouble. Why is it that you're trying to come here and destroy this thing? I love the language being used there. Does anybody have anything different? Why destroy a city that is a mother in Israel? That says a lot about who they are. Nate? Say that last part. Okay, you seek to put to death a mother city in Israel. I mean, a mother city would be a very important city, a caring city, a one that provides, not a divisive city. "Far be it from me," Joab replied. "Far be it from me to swallow up or destroy. That is not the case. A man named Sheba, son of Bichri, from the hill country of Ephraim, has lifted up his hand against the king, against David. Hand over this one man, and I'll withdraw from the city." The woman said to Joab, "His head will be thrown to you from the wall." She's not even thinking. She knows. What? That's why you're here? We'll take care of it. Who would love to meet this woman? From a distance. From a distance. The woman said to Joab, I already read that. "His head will be thrown to you from the wall." Then the woman went to all the people with her wise advice, and they cut off the head of Sheba, son of Bichri, and threw it to Joab. So he sounded the trumpet, and his men dispersed from the city, each returning to his home, and Joab went back to the king in Jerusalem. Whew! I mean, what a story. Nate, what do you see? Yes. Okay, now this is going to get into the weeds a little bit, but it's a helpful piece if you can kind of stay with me. The question in the commentaries is about author intent. When we tell a story, we don't give the full picture of a story because we're shaping the story, whether we're doing it on purpose or we're just telling it and it's easier to tell it this way, we're shaping a story to focus on the most important pieces. And sometimes we're willing to let go of some details because it doesn't help the telling of the story, or there are things that may be confused. The commentaries wanted to speak about author intent by saying they're trying to protect the reputation of David. And so much of this probably was, at least David was aware of it, if not the one behind it. But he's not the one most culpable for it because it's not been named this way in the story. Does that make sense? So that in the telling of his legacy is left a little bit more pure. Okay? And I think, though, that the reader, it doesn't take a lot to look into this to see this is clearly done for the sake of David's kingdom. Whether he was the one that pulled the trigger or gave the order, or he was the one that was the beneficiary of it and didn't even know anything about it. I think regardless of that, it doesn't matter. What really does matter is the division and the rebellion has been taken care of. And once again, we watch Joab not wanting to wait for David, at the least. At the most, doing things for David that needed to be done, that he was the one to do it. He's the fixer. But in the end, what we're seeing is the threat has been neutralized. David can now turn his attention back to repairing the kingdom. What else do you guys notice before we close? I'm going to wrap it up a little bit here. What does he do with the head? He goes to Amasa and puts it right next to it. I think what we need to walk away from this understanding is, once again, we're just continuing to see that the mighty kingdom of David that was so, in a way, pure and held together by integrity and people really liking him and confidence in who he is. It's cracked. What does Romans say? All are sinful. And, we all are that way. And it doesn't matter whether you intended to be that way or not. It leaves a wake. And the wake of David's sin and his own distraction away from the Lord has led to a breaking down of his own kingdom. And that was proclaimed over him. This is going to happen. And he's paid his price, and now he's having to clean up the mess. And this is now the beginning of the end of that division. We're going to watch as David gets to step back in and be the champion again. And the people are going to rally behind him. And he's going to pass the kingdom off to Solomon. And it's going to be the greatest kingdom under Solomon that it will ever be. But this terrible, awful stuff happened, not because God was trying to punish David from the standpoint of just to do it, but this is what Romans, I think, talks about in Romans chapter 1 is the wrath of God. It's not God sitting there shooting arrows like this. It's God saying, natural consequences are going to happen because of your sin. And that's what we've seen happen here. But thank God for people who know what they're doing, who have skill, and it's gruesome, but it's reality. And now we're back to a place of peace. We didn't get to read it. You can read it on your own time. I'm going to skip it next week. There's just a quick list of David's officials. The same list was given, I think, back in chapter 8. It's them saying now, okay, we're settled in, David's king again, and here are all the people who represent him. Whew, that was a lot, wasn't it? But, man, you know, you heard me say a few weeks ago, David's got gray hair at this point. If he doesn't have gray hair at this point, he's something special about him. You know, this is stressful, and it ages him, and it's paid its price. You know. So, all right, let's close in prayer. We've got some really good smelling roast over there, and I don't even know what the dessert is today. I think it was like a cookie cake or something. Chocolate pie. Okay. Oh Lord, thank you for your word. And even just for the fun of getting to read it together. Thank you for leading us. Thank you for your provisions, even when they're hard to read about. Lord, we offer ourselves to you. We do not want our sin to get in the way. So we offer it to you. That's what Lent is about. Reveal it to us so we can take care of it, so we can be in a place of your presence. We pray this in your great name. Amen.